So to qualify for deferred action, you have to be under, as of June 15th, you have to be under 31. You have to come to the United States before you're 16. You have to continuously reside in the United States for 5 years prior to June 15th of 2012. You have to be physically present here on June 15th, and that's kind of a problem for some to show that they were physically present here on June 15th because a lot of people were not in school that day. You have to show, also this is new, they made explicit that you can't be legal if you're applying for deferred action. For example, you can't have, let's say, been in Mexico for 5 years, and then, been here for 5 years, and then gone to Mexico, and somehow gotten a visitor's visa, and come in on a visitor's visa, and now you're in status. And so those people are not eligible. You have to be out of status or undocumented to be eligible. You have to either be currently in school or have a high school diploma or have a GED. And so if you have a high school diploma, you don't have to worry about showing that you're in school. And then finally, you have to show that you haven't been convicted of a felony. A felony is considered a crime that has a sentence of 1 year, or you can't be convicted of what's called a significant misdemeanor. A significant misdemeanor does include a DUI in the final regulations that came out today. So if you have a DUI, you are not eligible. Also, there are other similar crimes, like if you've been convicted of domestic violence or any kind of sex abuse, you're not eligible for deferred action. Also, if you've had 3 misdemeanors, lower level misdemeanors with a sentence of less than 90 days, then if you have 3 of those, you're not eligible. If you have 2 of those, you're eligible. A misdemeanor is defined as something that required a sentence of 5 days or more. So if you have something that has a sentence of less than 5 days, it's an infraction. And it's not a misdemeanor, and it doesn't count towards the 3 misdemeanor rule that would knock you out of deferred action. Some of the very specific things, I think I'll just do this off the top of my head and instead of trying to read this 20-page memo that came out today. But the cost is going to be $465, which is basically the cost of the employment authorization document and the fingerprints, the biometrics. Everybody's going to have biometrics. If you apply for deferred action, they're going to take your fingerprints, and they're going to make sure that you don't have a felony or a significant misdemeanor, for example, to be eligible for deferred action. There is no form yet, and there is no way to apply yet. So the form comes out on actually August 15th. We don't know exactly what's going to be on the form. I don't think it's going to be real complicated. One of the most important things in here is that it's completely confidential. And so if you apply for deferred action, that information never goes to ICE. Just like a U visa. If you're a victim of a crime in the United States, you can get a green card because you're a victim of a crime. And similarly, it's completely confidential when you apply for a U visa. It's also going to be completely confidential when you apply for deferred action. And that's really important because a lot of people have been really concerned about that issue. Are they going to, come after me if I'm denied? I think that as long as you, meet all of the requirements, they're not going to come after you. And I want to just say one thing. They're only deporting people in the United States that are one of 3 types of people. Number 1, people who have a crime. Number 2, people who have a deportation order who have not left the United States. And number 3, people who have come in recently with an illegal entry. And so if you don't fall into any one of those categories, you really don't have to be worried about somehow ICE coming and knocking on your door. Now, if you have any crime on your record, I highly do recommend that you visit an attorney and deal with that issue because it can be very serious. You don't want to risk anything at all in case there is a new administration that would take away deferred action, for example. If you have a serious crime, I think maybe even 2 misdemeanors, it's hard to say how Romney would treat that. I mean, I know right now they're saying that it's completely confidential, but that could change. In other words, the next president, if there is a next president, which I don't think there will be, but if that were to happen, he could change all of this because this is an executive order. This is not a law. There's been no change in law. there's an executive order by the Obama administration saying that we're going to change the process by which people are determined to be discretionarily in the United States. And those are, I think, some of the highlights. Continuous residence for 5 years includes people who have what are called brief, casual, and innocent absences from the United States. So if you have a short absence during the last 5 years and you've come back in, you're still eligible. Travel, you cannot travel during the pendency of the application. So if you have, if you apply for the application and you travel, then you lose, you can't continue with the application. If you travel after you've gotten deferred action, you can do that as long as you get advanced parole, Form I-131, before you leave the United States. It's advanced permission to return to the United States. So after you have deferred action, you can request to be paroled back into the United States, and if you are granted that advanced parole, then you could travel. During the time period of deferred action, you are not considered to be an unlawful presence. But if you have prior unlawful presence, meaning that you're in the United States without legal status for more than a year, you should not try to get that advanced parole before you leave the United States, because you may, despite the advanced parole, have a problem later on. So those are some of the basics of what came out in today's memo. Once again, there is no application yet. But we do know the cost. It's $465, and I think it will be a relatively straightforward application where you basically just have to prove all 7 things that are right here on the green page that I gave you.